This conference will now be recorded.
Well, thank you for joining me for our virtual business networking meeting. We have some people that have been here before. We have some new people. We have people. This one's very exciting because we have people from different places in the U.S. at either permanently or on vacation, and we also have people internationally. Even though we're a small crowd today. So we're going to do the same thing as normal. We're going to kick it off with a round of introductions. Just say your name, your company, your product or service. If you want to say where you live, where you're at. And then after we go through a quick round of introductions, we'll kick it off for general discussion. It can be business related or tangentially business related. If we want to talk about the coronavirus, or again the riots or anything else, as all I ask is that we at least kind of keep it somewhat business related. And I'm just going to go in the order that I see the folks here on my list. So, Barb, do you want to start and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Barbara Klein. I'm the owner and head of the Best You Dating and Life Coaching. I love helping singles understand their unique gifts and through that, learning to have success, experience success in their dating life and love life. And right now, even though I live in Pittsburgh, I am in Charleston, South Carolina.
Excellent. And since we have a little bit of time here in between the introductions, I will say this in case somebody wants to ask, because she and I were talking about this before we officially started the meeting. She and her boyfriend just bought a boat literally 2 days ago. So that's very exciting. So if anybody in the boating or thinking about buying a boat or anything like that, I think this is a good time to ask. So, all right. Clark, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Clark Patterson. I'm originally from 1 hour south of Pittsburgh on I-79, Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. I moved out in '90, spent 4 years in Lexington, Kentucky, then 16 years in Boston, and 6 years ago I moved to Chicago. I'm back into real estate, which is one of the reasons why I left the Pennsylvania, Morgantown, West Virginia area. It was in 1990, the S&L crisis, said no more real estate. So I'm back into real estate. I work with a company that does real estate education. Right now, I am promoting what they produced is a entrepreneurial high-level business owner class set of courses called Profits. So, and this is also their first international product. So that's what I'm working on right now. Other than that, to go earlier conversation with the people in Greene County, which is where I'm from, have all been bitterly complaining about the being shut in because of 40,000 people, they've only had 26 cases and no deaths. So they've been enjoying the fact that West Virginia has been opening up the last couple of weeks. Well, everybody else is still locked down.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And Merav, if you want to talk a little bit and introduce yourself, and also, by the way, since you are out in Israel, and quite honestly, I think the three of us maybe don't stay in touch with the news over there. If you want to talk a little bit about how the coronavirus is impacting or not impacting, and I don't know if you've had any of the riots that we've had here in the U.S. I know there have been several international cities where there have been either peaceful protest or whatever. So just kind of introduce yourself and tell us how things are going over there.
Okay, so my name is, Merav. I'm from Tel Aviv, and I'm entrepreneur. My background in software engineer, a software developer, and I leave my job in December and I start launch my project. My project is about loyalty programs, okay, for loyalty customer for small and mid-sized businesses, okay. So I will give a short introduction to my project. I will explain what the status is, what I'm looking for now, and I will explain also about the situation here in Israel, as you asked.
Okay.
So my project is like that. Most of the loyalty customers have plastic or papers loyalty card, and those customers have difficulties to manage those cards. They have don't remember how much points they have. They don't remember. They sometimes forget to take them with them. They don't remember. Sometimes they lose them and they cost money. Those cards sometimes. So my idea was to manage and maintain all the loyalty cards in one app, in one digital powerful platform. This platform also going to serve as a marketing platform for small mid-sized businesses, extends the business opportunity. I could explain about this after, and strengthens the relationship between small and mid-sized businesses to their loyal customers, which is for raising the sales and raising the revenue and stuff like that. So this is about the project. I will give you an example about the power of this platform. Let's say that you like to go to the gym, and after the gym you like to go to eat salad. So the gym and the salad store can do collaboration between them and could create a one card or one loyalty program. It depends on them what they want with points, not points. There is a lot of options, and this loyalty program going to be in my app. And I want to emphasize that my app is specifically for small and mid-sized businesses and for loyalty customers, not return customers. Okay, this is my focus. Before the coronavirus, I was started in the campus, university campus. This is why was my focus. Now, because of the corona, the campus is not working. Students working online. So I had a few months that I'm thinking about what to do and stuff like that. I decided to return to this project, and I'm now looking for a founder. That will join to this project. Of course, this project is after MVP, after a little pilot. It was a couple of weeks outside, but the data is nice. I don't have a lot of data about this, so I have MVP clients, users, and I also have some offering from big organizations that I just heard about me and come to ask me for a opportunity. All this without investment. So I'm looking now for founders, and after that to work together to see how we work, and after that to go to investors. This is about the status of the project and what I'm looking for.
Let me interrupt there and mention this. One thing I'm going to do, it just occurred to me. I don't know why it didn't occur to me last time we were all together. But here in Pittsburgh, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, prior to the coronavirus, was thinking of doing a loyalty program with the different sort of restaurants and vendors and business people, small business owners that belong to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So I'm going to pass your information on to them because they were thinking of doing something very, very similar to what you just described. And if you're willing to work with them from Israel, and they're willing to work with you from here from Pittsburgh, they've already done a lot, and it sounds like you've done a lot. So anyway, I'm going to pass your information on to them to see if there's some mutual benefit there.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, yes, but by the way, my idea is not so new in the market, but there is a lot of difficulties to actually promotion it, market it, make it as a brand. So therefore, I have new strategies in marketing that I think that are going to be successful. Of course, it depends on the coronavirus and stuff like that, but I'm taking the chance and I'm continue with that. Okay, so this is about the project, my status and what I'm looking for. Now, about Israel. First of all, I'm not reading a lot newspapers. I really have a lot of things to do, so I don't know how much I'm, you know, really deep inside the details. But here in Israel, all the market was opened before a couple of. Actually, it was open before 2-3 weeks ago. It was in steps, at the first all the stores was open, after that stuff like that. Now there is some concern in the government about the numbers. We get to some point that we didn't have new people that get the coronavirus, so they open, and now the data show us that there is for example, today there is 54 news people with corona for us. Like if you look about the about the rate of how much people get contagious with the corona, so it's a little bit concern us because it shows some it's become more and more, now the government is looking where is the area that was contagious, and they try just to close those area and not to close again all the market, because otherwise, and we will see. And also a lot of people next week, sorry, in the previous years, last week, when the restaurant was opened, a lot of people go out without a mask. There was crazy and stuff, and the government now trying to say to him, come on, if you will not put this, and you not be careful, and the number will get raised, so we will close. And the government trying now to again become more to to use to become more to restrict people to yeah, you know what I mean. So let's see here. And for example, to be honest, I didn't go with that mask in the morning. I go out, come to this place, I sit in here for a couple of hours, and then the owner of the place told me that somebody comes and give him he need to give him money, the government give a report gave sorry the government one somebody came and gave a report. So they asked me now to sit with this mask inside the restaurant. So I feel like the government trying to to
force the use of the mask.
force, exactly, I forgot, force us to use to use the forced to use a mask. But still, the restaurant is open, bars open, canyon is open, swimming pool is open. So let's see.
Okay, good.
So I have a question. You said, said that there were 54 cases reported. Is that just in Tel Aviv, or is that in all of Israel?
No, we're around all Israel. So it was very, according to our data, of course, it is according to our size, and according to the previous data, it's a lot. For example, in before we went to isolation, the number of people before we get to isolation, we get something like 30 people a day. 50 is a lot, but I don't know if it was only one time or it's going to reduce. I don't know, but there is some concern. I hope, but now I will talk in my personal opinion. I think there was some, Corona is not going to leave us. I think that in the first place, I don't understand why all over the world it was so the isolation period of time was so big. I don't understand it. I think that it's good that it was isolation, but it was like 2-3 weeks, and then you need to open the market again, and You need to understand that you really cannot stop the corona, because even if one person get the corona, it could spread all around the world. You really can't control it. So it's not really logic to prevent people to go out. So I really don't understand what's going on. But I'm glad that Israel opens the market again. I think that we just need to be careful. That's all. Not to be take a isolation distance, and take and the government should take take care of the old people, which is the main population that should be taken, you know, sh- maybe in a risk, and other people should be open. Most 80 to anyway, a lot of people here get the corona and was recover from it. So,
Yeah. Hey, Clark, let me ask you a question since you're over there in Chicago. What are you seeing in terms of coronavirus? What are you seeing in terms of riots? And how is that affecting rents and property prices? Because I know I've started to read something about, hey, because of the economic impact of coronavirus, first people on the commercial side, they can't pay their rents. And then with the unemployment, even on the residential side, people are not going to pay the rents or can't pay the rents. And then, of course, once that happens, properties become less valuable because you have less cash flow. So, long story short, what are you kind of seeing on the ground over there?
Of course, that has been a favorite topic of many conversations the last 2 months. Right now, I'll split it into two sectors: residential, including multifamily. I mean, meaning commercial is multifamily 5+, but it's still residential. There's so much money sitting out there that they want a safe investment for the next couple of years that actually has returns. So there's so much money out there that's pushing the buy of multifamily that they'll whatever price drop is going to be pushed by temporary occupancy rate calculations is going to be countered. So right now, the worst case scenario, they're predicting a drop about to bottom out this time next year in the 15% range. Most of us think that's exaggerated, but it'd be half of that. So you possibly could see 5 to 7% drop in prices in the next 12 months, but rebound quickly after that. The commercial side's a different story. Office space and retail space, that's what's going to take the hard hit. Most large corporations are in and around Chicago have already said most of our people are not coming back to work until next year, and they're getting very comfortable with this remote working. And so it'll be interesting to see how quickly corporations realize they can save a lot of money by having not so many people work in the corporate headquarters in a downtown major city, but still that makes it, that might in the long run make corporate headquarters in a larger city even more attractive, because they can live wherever. We can pull the people in when we need them, have meeting spaces and stuff like that, but I don't have to have a desk in office here full time. So it's an interesting discussion. Like I said, if there wasn't all this pent up demand for a better place to put investment money, it might be a different story. But that's the real thing. Chicago was a little bit slower than New York City, but I think the devastation is every bit as much comparable. In fact, I looked at, I saw a rate ranking. What is currently the highest? What states have the highest rate of infection? New York had already coasted down to 15, and Illinois was number 5. Maryland and Rhode Island are up the top of the list right now. My daughter lives in Massachusetts. They were on the front end. They got most of theirs on the front end, but they're still getting. In fact, her husband, even though his test came back, even his coworkers all tested positive, and somehow he tested negative, and everybody's going, not possible. So I said to them, good, you had it. Let's help with the herd. Unfortunately, this is it's nothing no different than 1918, 1957, 1969, 2000, what was it, 9? We don't have a vaccine for any of those viruses yet. We're not going to get one for this one either. How much money have we pounded into HIV?
Yep.
All we got is very expensive treatments. No cure, no vaccine, no nothing. So I think it was a huge mistake by our governments all to sit there and say, "Oh, we got to wait for a vaccine before we get to normal." I says, "No, we just have to go. This is Mother Nature, and protect the older people and people with compromised immune systems, and get the herd immunity going as fast as possible without overloading the hospital." So the 2-3 week in New York City made sense. Then that's what they should have done in Israel. They could have done. I mean, not in Israel, Italy. Other than that, like I said, most of the economic damage is going to be done in smaller cities, small towns. The hospitals there are all going to be declaring bankruptcy because they've lost all their revenue, because they kicked out all their revenue sources with surgeries and treatments, and ended up with empty beds. So they're not going to get the COVID money from the Fed to make up for that. There's a hospital block away from me, and I walked in the first 2 weeks. I walked up and says, "Hey, if you need volunteers, put me on a list." I grew up on a farm and I'm a janitor, so blood, guts, puke, and shit don't bother me. I said, I'll be a janitor. I'll work in I'm not afraid of this virus either. And you know what? They didn't know what to do with me. We don't have a list. In other words, they weren't that worried about it either. and so that hospital never got loaded up, and they got all. And right next door is a whole senior community center that hospital serves. It's the same organization, and there wasn't much going on.
Hey, Merav,
didn't have the governor making those senior centers taking hospitals.
Sort of background noise from your side.
My side?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's like a radio or static or something.
Okay. Yeah. So I will mute it, and only when I speak,
Oh, okay. Thank you, Barb. And where you're in South Carolina, is it like a rural area or is it a city? And what are you seeing over there?
So I'm in North Charleston, and the location of where we're staying is right by the airport. It's populated. There's lots of traffic, and with the coronavirus, some are wearing masks, some are not. Most people are keeping their distance from you, which is fine. And really, we try not to a whole lot. Like when we first arrived here, on our way here, I put in a grocery store order, and it arrived right after we arrived, so that we didn't have to go to the store. We did go to Walmart after we got the boat to get things that we needed for that, but again, we were wearing our masks and preparing, and watched, like the aisles had things, don't walk down this way, walk that way, so if you want to go down one aisle, you had to walk around to go there, and so forth. And this area probably was not hit as hard as some other areas. But in response to everybody, I understand the whole economic thing. That's just devastating for many, many people and businesses, and I get it. the the impact of the coronavirus was more stay in and stay away from people, because if we didn't do that, healthy people as well would have become infected, and the hospital systems would have been so overrun beyond, like, New York, they set up outside facilities in order to be able to accommodate companies. Like, there's a commercial for Ford where they started making ventilators because we needed ventilators. I'm not saying that the government was wrong. I'm not saying the government was right. But I do agree that to minimize the amount of cases so that our health system was not overrun to the point of not being able to bring people in to help them, and more people dying because of lack of treatment, that's really what it was all about. It wasn't about that we need to stop conducting business. It wasn't about even rural areas needing to be isolating. It was keeping the population of sick people down so that the health system could actually care for the people that needed cared for. Now, there is a nursing home in a county just north of where I live, in Pittsburgh, that had over 300 cases of COVID, because I'm not sure why. And actually, my sister-in-law's son-in-law works there in the HR department. The National Guard came in order to teach the workers how to properly take care
I think
of themselves and the patients. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Can
Barb's
you hear me?
Yeah, I think you're having a little trouble
Yes.
with your bandwidth there. But let me say this while your bandwidth gets back to normal.
Can you hear
And
me now?
this is one of the very few times, if not maybe the only time, that I actually feel bad for politicians, because if they did the lockdown and they did it successfully and they prevented, to your point, the hospitals from getting overrun, now they're in a position where they have to defend the counterfactual, meaning what didn't happen. Now you're a politician. You have to say, hey, listen, I forced the economy into this lockdown. I hurt all these businesses. I created all this unemployment. I was the cause of all these negative, bad economic things. But trust me, if I had not done that, then the hospitals would have been overrun. We would have had all these people infected. We would have had all these deaths. So recognize that I did a great thing, which is very hard to prove because it never happened. And being successful actually hurt your credibility, let's say, or So yeah, they are in a little bit of a tough spot there.
I can understand, but I really think the first isolation was, I mean, the first time that they do the isolation was really right. I mean, it's exactly like Barbara said, it was for the, just to control it. But I think that the amount of times that the market was closed was really, I feel that the politics was used that for something that I'm not sure what it is. To control about 2-3 weeks, this is logic. After that, for my opinion anyway, after that you will need to open the market again and again. Of course, not to let actually restaurant or bars to be open, for example, or maybe if you let that, just do some educational before, say to people, no, you cannot, if there is a, let's say, the X number of people, you cannot give them, you cannot give to a lot, to more people to enter, something like that. I think that party is not logic to open. The government here in Israel opened the parties. I mean, let's party to be, well, let's say the clubs, dance club to be open. This is not logic. So you need to control it. just to control it over time, and education people that amount of people could come to your place, but not more than that. This is for my opinion. And then everybody, not to become so extreme for both sides. This is my opinion. Um, that's all.
Yeah. Hey, Clark, let me ask you a question, kind of a little bit also on the real estate side again. And I know this is not settled. I know there's a lot of moving parts and even different scenarios. But let's say a year from now, middle of next year, okay? How many restaurants do you think will like close and go bankrupt and not be in business? Like if I measure, let's say December of last year, before the coronavirus, everything was normal, and I compare it to a year from now, do you think we will have lost 10% of the restaurants, 20%, 30%, or more or less? And do you see prices changing because permanently they can have less people in there, but they still have the same kind of staff and the same rent, so they have no choice but to raise the prices on the restaurants that kind of stick around?
In large cities, in the downtown area and in your large cities, they will not be able to stay open with 50% occupancy. They will go under. In smaller cities, small towns, yeah, they'll make it. But in the big cities, I talked to a friend of mine who had a restaurant for 30, 40 years in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. And, the margins that restaurant and bars work on is so razor thin. They don't work on asset base, they work on cash flow. And with no cash flow, there's no business. And so probably but this is probably first or second week in April. I says, if we don't open up by the end of the month, end of April, we'll lose about 35% of restaurant and bars in big cities. If we don't open up by May, we're going to lose 50%. And by May, we started seeing announcements in Chicago of 2-3 generation restaurants and bars announcing we're done. One of my favorites downtown, they just did a $1 million renovation. And I'm anxious to see if they even open back up. And they normally pack house at 300, almost 7 nights a week, at 200 to 300 people from 4:30 to 9:30, 10 o'clock every night. If you're going to tell them they can only open and have 100 people in there, they're not going to survive.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, and
they
the
can have
payment
more
on the loan
people,
for the
but
renovation is
the
not going to
cost
go
of
down.
utilities, the rent, and whatever and like I said, they got a $1 million renovation they just did. It didn't come out of the cash pocket. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah. Oh, let me tell you, for whatever it's worth, even way before the coronavirus, even for like a year or two before the coronavirus, as you folks know, I'm a business broker, so I help people buy and sell businesses, and not every once in a while, like every week, we would see a restaurant closing. They didn't sell, they just decided to close. And I remember having discussions with people, okay, why is it that, to your point, this restaurant may have been around for years and years, 10, 20, 30 years, multiple generations. And I thought personally it was a very good restaurant. I mean, I would go there, and eat whatever, and they would close. And looking at it from the outside, because they were not a client of mine, so I don't have access to their financial books or whatever. But the only conclusion that we could come up with is the market's just too competitive. I mean, in Pittsburgh, before the coronavirus, quite honestly, we had an embarrassment of riches of really fantastic restaurants that had been out on there for the whole time, and then the new concepts coming in, and there was a lot of turnover in the industry and restaurants closing simply by the nature of the competition. Now you throw on top of this the coronavirus, that they've been weakened because they've been closed, so they've been taking, cash out of the balance sheet. The people are maybe scared to go back, so they may not even go back at the 50% they're allowed. So I feel really bad for people in the restaurant industry, because if it was hyper competitive before, it's going to go through the roof now.
Yeah. The other conversation I went into, got invited to, was a beer distributor outside of Philadelphia. And of course, they service all the bars and restaurants. And of course, they're not doing any business with those people right now. But they basically haven't lost any sales whatsoever. It's all shifted to grocery stores. And they've actually had to go into the smaller, especially the smaller shops, and teach them that you need to switch from 6-packs to cases, because that's what they want to buy now, because they're stuck at home. And so, how much do you drink when you buy a 6-pack versus how much versus a case? So actual consumption per household, many households, is up.
Yeah, and again, not to belabor the point, but that may be consumption that they would have had at the restaurant, whether it was a beer or
Right.
even a wine or a mixed drink. But
But he
people
did.
can
Let me add just
only
one thing.
consume so much.
But he did say, when they start opening, restaurants and bars start opening up, you will see, before COVID, you'd walk into a bar and you'd see 30 taps with all these fancy beers. He says, I guarantee you, they're not going to buy those $300 to $400 kegs for quite a while. You're going to be lucky to see 12 taps of just like in the old days when it used to be, just plain staples, because of, they think they'll get a rush when the bars all first open. They'll get a rush, just like she said, and then after that, there'll be too many people scared to go anywhere. They won't have enough client base, so they'll just open up 6 to 12 taps, and it'll be a long time before you see 24 to 330 rather.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting close to
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have an official end time, but we've been at it for a while. Let me ask maybe one last question, and anything else anybody wants to talk about before we disband. But Barb, in terms of, and I know, again, we talked about this previously, you're not a matchmaker, you're more of a consultant, but still, since you're at least plugged into that market, what have you seen in the dating industry that has changed because of the coronavirus? And two things kind of come to mind right away, but you can tell me. One is, of course, a lot of times the date would be at a restaurant or a bar, or you would meet someone at a bar. So I mean, all that's out the window, right? We can still do all the online stuff. And I know some platforms are actually trying to get people to do sort of virtual dates over the computer, like video conference and things like what we're doing now. So
Right.
what else are you seeing that's kind of changing that whole dynamic?
So, yeah, I mean, I have clients that are doing virtual meetings like this to meet somebody, FaceTime, Google Duo, those kinds of things. You can go on, there's an app called House Party where you can actually engage with friends and play games. So they've been doing things like that. So once things got into the yellow zone in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I have clients that will invite somebody out for a walk, to go for a little hike or whatever. So you can still social distance, but get to talk to somebody and get to know them for a first meet or a first date or whatever.
Old-fashioned courting.
Yeah, old-fashioned courting, exactly. So yeah, that people are like, well, how do I even move forward? Well, it's not impossible. You just have to be creative, just like we're all doing now. We're trying to be creative in how we are existing in our lives. The thing I wanted to bring up was the Pennsylvania, they own their liquor stores, not the beer distributors, but the liquor stores. And during COVID, they did more business in 1 month than they did in a quarter last year. So yeah, there was a lot of drinking going on.
And that was with places completely shut off, like Greene County. The liquor store never opened.
Oh.
Hey,
Yeah.
Merav, let me ask you, over there in Israel, has coronavirus changed the dating scene, or is it the same, or not?
So I can only speak from experience, personal experience. Again, I am pretty busy in my things. Yeah, I think that's the same as Barbara said. There is, I heard anyway in the TV, they talk about the dating in our Israel. So the news says that people get know each other virtually. Personal experience, I didn't use that. Um, just I personally, app and going out, and sometimes even it's I think, yeah, like Barbara said, exactly here in Israel.
Okay,
Um,
cool. All right. Well, listen. It is 2:50 almost by my clock. So, again, there's no set time limit. But is there anything anybody wants to chat about or ask anybody else before we kind of disband for this session?
I'm good.
No. Okay, Clark. Anything? Merav? Anything from anybody?
Rev, I'm looking for a hot salesman in Israel. Got anybody that wants to work?
so contact me. Um, I will give you some link maybe. What exactly do you need?
I need a salesman to sell this business software education service in Israel.
So maybe if you can send me email exactly with what you want,
Sure.
and I will spread it in some groups.
Okay,
And okay.
that'd be beautiful.
All right, and like I said, I'll send your information to the folks from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce here in Pittsburgh because I think that might be a good fit, and it might be a good organization for you to partner up and maybe fine tune your software a little bit more. Your software, by the way, just to be clear, is available right now if they wanted to use it. It's fully developed, at least as an MVP, right?
Yes, it is available, but problem is that it's in Hebrew. I just did it in one language because it's MVP, but
Okay.
you can download it if you have Android.
Okay. All right. Well, I will let them deal with that and see what their level of interest is. Okay. All right. Well, guys, thanks you for joining me. Like always, I'll send you the recording here in a couple of hours once the system has done its magic. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.